Knickers.
Knickers.
Hanging up your knickers.
No, I've just got some jackets hanging up, drying because it's rainy as hell and I can't get my wash and dry.
Oh no, I'm so not ready for summer to be gone.
Summer was gone a long time ago, Kate.
Well, we had a
Couple of
nice
years
2
ago.
days.
Summer went in lockdown when we had lockdown and it was super lovely that first time. That's it.
Yeah, it's been it since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I feel all right. Just had a couple of rough days. Well, only really yesterday. I was like,
bleh.
Bleh, but I feel better today. Not
Good.
100%, but better.
That's great news.
Great news. Yep. All good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
Good.
Yep. I've been informed that when I do my podcast, I tend to be a little bit loud in my speaking voice.
Don't know what you mean.
Which is, I'm not a loud person.
You're enthusiastic. That's what it is.
Yeah, I know. I get hyped up and I get shouty, but Josie's on a very important meeting all day, so she's gone upstairs, she shut the door, she's like, be quiet.
Keep it down.
She did that Ross thing. Shh. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and be a normal level voiced today.
Right. We'll try it out. We'll see how we get on with it and how long it lasts.
Something's happened to my throat. I don't know what it is. Every time I speak, it feels like I've got something jabbing me in the throat, like something's grown overnight. And it's just stabbing me in the neck every time I talk. So this is going to be fun.
That's a very roundabout segue, really, segue rather, because on our last episode, we said about the pros and cons of being a vampire or a werewolf.
Oh, yeah. Vampires, do they get poorly?
Well, no, but I was thinking you might be growing a fang.
Oh, what? Inside of me?
Growing one there, and it will just work its way up and then be like, boop, and pop down.
I don't think so.
So, well, let me give you, because we asked our listeners, didn't we? And we said, would you guys prefer to be werewolf or vampire? But I don't feel like everyone had the full facts. So I have got a list of pros and cons of being a vampire and pros and cons of being a werewolf.
All right, then.
You want to hear it so you can make an informed choice.
Yeah, we did say, I was like, I'm going to come back with a whole list of reasons why I should be this. I've completely forgotten all about it, so I've got nothing.
I knew you would. So you had more than enough on your plate with preparing a whole episode. So I have done a pros and cons list for you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You can make an informed decision. So pros and cons of being a vampire. These are the pros. Immortality. Vampires can live forever, giving them unlimited time to accumulate knowledge, wealth, and experiences. Another pro is enhanced abilities. Vampires often possess superhuman strength, speed, agility, and heightened senses like night vision. So you'd be able to see clearly not whether it's day, because burn your eyes out your head. Regeneration. They can heal quickly from most wounds, making them nearly indestructible in many forms of storytelling. Eternal youth. They don't age. So you could...
This is looking really good for me right now.
It's looking really good, isn't it? I know. I'd be all like wet dog smelling and hairy, and you'd be like youthful and immortal. So you would be able to maintain your physical appearance indefinitely. Power and control. Vampires often have hypnotic powers or mind control over humans or weaker beings. Vampiric societies. So many vampire narratives suggest exclusive clubs or societies giving vampires a sense of belonging and status.
Like a support club. That's a little support group for vampires.
called Suckers Anonymous. Or words to that effect. No need for sleep. Imagine how much you'd get done. Oh my
I don't think I
goodness.
would though, because like when you're at work and you've got not very busy day, but you've got all the day to do all of these little things, you tend to procrastinate, not get anything done. Whereas if you've got a really busy day and you've got loads to do, you smash through it and you get it all done. So I feel like if I had indefinite time, I'd do nothing.
And you do enjoy sleeps, so maybe some of that should be on the cons list because you do love a sleeps.
Do love sleeping.
And the final one on the pros list is unique perspective. So vampires would live through centuries, giving them the ability to witness all the historical events, what works for humanity, what doesn't work for humanity. And it's said that they have unmatched wisdom.
I just feel like that would turn me into a very bitter, old, youthful looking vampire. No.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, back in my day.
Back in the day, I remember.
The youths of today have run riot.
Yeah. No, you're probably right. Yeah. So some of the cons for being a vampire is blood dependency. So you would have to suck to survive, which can be, it says, morally challenging or dangerous if humans are involved.
I feel like I'd find a way around. Like, I wouldn't just spring up on people out of an alley and like bite their neck.
I would. I'd love that.
Yeah.
every corner of the town, I'd be there.
No, I'd set up like a blood bank and be like, oh, we're giving to children if you want to donate.
I'm not sure if that's better or not. I mean,
I'd come up, but that was just on the fly. I mean, I'd come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a better way of, and you do get these people, the groups of people that want to be vampires, don't they? And they
oh my God, do you remember the cannibal episode?
Yeah.
And they're like, there'll be
Cannibal
a forum
Cafe.
of people. There'd be a forum of people wanting to get bitten by a vampire. I don't want to keep saying the word sucked because that's horrendous.
I like it.
So
yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's forums for that a lot.
Yeah. I'd go on the wrong one as a vampire.
Yeah.
I'd get myself in all sorts of trouble.
That would potentially be a problem. But yeah, instead of Cannibal Cafe, you could put up like Fanged Forum or something. I don't know. Yeah. Isolation and loneliness. Immortality often means that you would outlive loved ones, friends, things like that, unless
you better just get new ones.
All right. Oh, yeah, mate, that's not a con then.
I've got all day and all night. Well, not all day, because what am I doing in the day then if I'm not sleeping but I'm not allowed to go out?
Well, you'd just be in the house.
You'd be going on the forums.
Yeah, setting up your blood banks and things, and yeah. Although that is confusing because vampires in like the films and books and everything, during the day they get in their coffin and they sleep.
Yeah, but this is real life.
Oh,
this isn't,
of course.
This isn't films, Kate. This is real life vampires.
Real life vampires. You would constantly be hunted. So you'd constantly have the fear of like vampire hunters and things like that coming after you. There's rivalry from supernatural creatures, apparently.
Me and you.
Yeah. We'd create a rivalry. Or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe we'd merge together and make like a weird group.
You would kill people and then I would drink their blood. That would be
I'll eat the meat. Yeah. Oh. I'm still feeling too queasy to be talking about this. There's a social stigma. So in many stories, vampires must live in secrecy, hiding their true nature to avoid persecution or capture. I feel that goes hand in hand with the hunted one.
Yeah, but also I feel like if I am youthful looking and wisdomous, I don't think anyone would suspect me, little old me. No one's gonna go like, oh, Sarah. So if she's such a
Sarah.
vampire.
No, she crochets and all sorts.
Yeah, a
Makes
vampire?
little models. No.
Never. No.
Get a jigsaw, she'll devour it.
Oh, absolutely. Love
Group of young children. Safe. Yeah. I don't reckon they'd suspect you.
No, I don't either.
You're not that kind of like person, are you?
No.
So you've another con is you'd have a limited diet. So the vampires have the inability to enjoy normal food.
Yeah, and I love a bit of garlic.
Yeah, so that'd be a massive con for you.
Yeah.
Ethical dilemmas, preying on humans. Well, you've already kind of covered that because you would set up a volunteer blood bank.
Yeah.
Vulnerability to specific weapons like wooden stakes, holy water, garlic, or crosses. I think garlic's probably the only one that's gonna.
I don't normally come into contact with a wooden
you.
stake.
No, and definitely not holy water. Eternal emotional pain. So the burden of immortality may result in a never-ending emotional or psychological suffering, which could bring about your end.
I get that. I think at some point I'm reading a book at the minute, and the elves live indefinitely. And when one of them dies, it's such a tragic event because they're not used to death, and it shatters their minds, and they just can't cope.
Oh, that sounds horrendous.
Yeah. Great book.
It's great, a great feel-good book. And the last of the vampire cons is loss of humanity. So over time, a lot of time, you would lose your connection to human emotions, and you would become cold, distant, and monstrous in your behaviour.
I mean, standard.
How is that any different?
I know. That's used to it.
Cold, emotionless,
distant to humanity. If I step outside and there's people out there, I'm coming straight back in.
Exactly.
There's too peoply in the world today.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. They'd be like, yeah, but you wouldn't be able to be around people. I'd be like, brilliant. Where do I sign up?
Meet up.
Exactly. So I'll go through pros of being a werewolf. Enhanced strength and speed, like that. Heightened senses. So I'd have heightened smell, sight, hearing, giving them the edge of like
stealth,
tracking, and stealthy. I like that. Or detecting danger.
Your hackles would go up.
They do now.
I know.
When I meet someone I don't like, I feel all my hackles bristling up on my back, and I'm like, oh. Start making a look. Oh. I like that. Regenerating and healing. So be the same as you. Like if we get a little paper cut or something, it just goes gone. Done. Didn't even feel it. Longevity. So although it's not immortality, it is longevity. So many werewolf myths suggest that werewolves live much, 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 much longer than humans. Connection to nature. I'm all about that. Being naked in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Just there.
Just your average day.
In my fur. Yeah. Power and dominance. What's not to like about that? Pack mentality. Yeah, I quite like that because we're a pack. I think me and you, we're a podcast pack. Cons of being a werewolf. Oh, and I didn't put that on the pros list, but being furry. I like the thought of that.
Listen, I am all over head to toe furry, and it is, unless you're able to embrace it, just go outside like it. I, however, am not, and it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, I remember when you said on the pod that you shaved your face the day before.
Yeah, head to toe.
Did you use that spray stuff? You know,
No, I
that's,
want to though.
yeah,
I look
that'd
like
be
an abominable
cool.
snowman.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
My face is just so hairy and I don't understand it. I mean, it's blonde, but if I put foundation on, it doesn't even reach my skin.
It just stays on the fur.
Just sits on the hair.
Oh, what are
And
you
if
gonna?
I like try to rub it in, you can see the hair. Like I can make a
It just
pattern in it.
smears the hair like a
Yeah.
swirl.
You think I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not.
No, I'm just. It just never notices. That's why.
Yeah, it's blonde, isn't it?
I just never see it. And like when we see each other and give each other a cuddle, I don't see it.
A brush past
I
my
don't.
fur.
It all goes like that, and I'm going. Oh, your
Yeah.
hair's in my eye. And you're like, it's not my hair, it's my face.
It's my fur. But
My
honestly,
fur.
though, like Josie's leg hair stops halfway up her leg and like below her knee, well below her knee.
Right.
Mine goes from my toe to my forehead, and I've got about seven hair follicles out of one pore.
I don't get that.
I'll show you next time because it's something. Honestly, it's something.
Someone else.
It's a sight to behold.
Yeah. Well, maybe you're part werewolf already then. Maybe you just need to convert over to vampires.
Yeah.
So cons of being a werewolf, loss of control. So during transformations, especially during like full moons, things like that, we could accidentally harm loved ones or innocent people. I mean, are there any innocent people really in this world now? Not so much. Painful transformations. So apparently when you
Yeah.
transform from human to wolf, it's excruciatingly painful.
Also, imagine how many, like, the cost of it, having to constantly buy new clothes.
Yeah. I
It's
feel
really
like you'd get used
expensive.
to it, or I could just permanently wear lycra. And then I'd like burst into this big balloon of lycra and I'd be like, I'll be back in a minute.
Cutting off your circulation.
Yeah. I'll just get really that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do. That's my plan. I'm going to buy oversized lycra, like full lycra suits.
I can't
And then
wait for
when I transform, I'll just like burst into this like lycra like balloon with all my werewolf sizeness and like fur and everything, and I'll just be like, wait a minute, I'll be back. I'll be back in 5, and like get out of the room in my lycra, and then like try and roll the lycra down and get it off, and then be like, oh, that's better.
Do
And
you think,
then I'll
as
be
a
like,
werewolf, you've got the cognitive ability of a human? Or are you like werewolf savage? Because I don't think.
no, I think they're two different things. Because even when I get the rage over someone or something, and I think, oh my God, and I can't control that anger. And
I'm ready to burst into the
yeah,
cycle.
I feel like I'm partway there already with like if I saw someone like hit a dog or something like that, like my rage just comes from nowhere, which is also why I don't go on like hunt saboteurs or anything anymore, because I can't control the rage I feel when I see someone hurting an animal. It just comes out of nowhere. But I would also have the ability to feel if I was uncomfortable in my clothes. So I'd be like, wait a minute. I'd like go into the bushes. Or maybe if I could control my transformations a little bit, I could just quickly like
Whip off your clothes.
roll off into like a ditch or something and quickly take off my clothes, wolf up, savage that person, and then like
Clamber back into the ditch, put your clothes on.
roll back into the ditch. But yeah, I think maybe lycra's the way forward. I'll look
All
into that.
Yep.
The last few are social isolation. But I mean, I'd have a pack, so I'd be all right with that. Hunger and aggression. I mean, I deal with that now, so It's fine. Weakness to silver. That's fine. I wear gold apart from that one ring, which is silver. Well, but that's fine. The rest of my jewelry's gold, so I'm good with that. Although, if I wolfed up, what happens to jewelry?
Cut your finger off.
That'd cut my finger off, or it'd just burst off, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Might need to look into that. Maybe I'll get some dog tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put your werewolf name on them.
Yeah. And a double life. So managing a normal human life whilst also dealing with the responsibilities and or consequences of being a werewolf.
I feel like out of those, vampire is the way to go.
There's one more. It says that I'd be under a permanent curse. Then so would you as a vampire. So, you know.
Yeah, a curse or a blessing. Depends how you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how you deal with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So based on those, are you
based on those, I'm still vampire.
Still vampire?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm still wolfy, but I do like some of the pros and I like some of the cons for being a vampire as well, because I dislike most people. So,
well, there you have it, peeps.
yeah, there's your facts. Your facts. There's your pros and cons. Yeah, I still like the idea of sleeping in a pack of fuzzy mates, all snuggling up together and that. I quite like that. Although I'd be disgusted if I woke up and everyone was just back to human form and naked. Like, oh, get off. Yeah.
Yeah, that would happen.
Yeah.
All right, should we use that as our random blab?
Well, I have got a random blab.
All right then.
All right, I'll just that's just normal chat. I'll do one random blab. So my random blab is an elephant's trunk is not only long, but is packed with 5 times more smell receptors than humans. And researchers found that the African elephant has the greatest sense of smell amongst all mammals, even beating dogs, including the bloodhound, who is renowned for his sniffing ability.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're the best sniffers.
Yeah, you don't think of elephants as having
No.
noses.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Like you think
Yeah.
about their trunks and they use it to like pick food up and
Yeah.
you know, and all that, but you don't actually think about them being able to like sniff.
They're all things, yeah.
Yeah.
When we was in South Africa, we watched the elephants. There were so many elephants and they were just amazing. They're huge and they were just amazing to watch. But one of them was just stood under this singular tree. It was about 40 degrees, it was red hot. And one of them was just stood under this tree just by himself, because normally they're like together.
Yeah.
But he was just off by himself and he was kicking, like scooping up the dirt with his foot, making a big old dirt pile, and then grabbing it with his trunk and then just flicking it up and it would just spray all over him.
Oh.
Yeah, I got videos of it because it's really cool.
Really cool.
But yeah, they use their trunk for everything. They're like little fingers. It's even got a little finger on the end, isn't it?
Yeah, a little pointy bit.
Yeah.
Like that.
Fingery lip.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks.
All right, that's all right.
Love that.
Random blab. Done. Morning.
I've done it a bit quieter today.
We're getting told off for being too loud.
You're not.
I will be in a minute.
Even if I'm on the phone to someone, she's like, "You're so shouting." I'm like, "What? They're over the other side." Like, she lives well far away. How's she supposed to hear me?
She's all the way down in Essex.
Yeah, of course I got to shout.
Yeah.
It's normally when I'm just on the phone. Normally, I don't. It's when they're on FaceTime. I feel like they're further away.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
Have to shout. Have to do it.
Have to.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's crack on then.
All right.
So today's episode,
Mm-hmm.
I was just, in the world of the internet, and I was looking for a story to do,
Hmm.
and I come across these Charles Peck calls,
Never
and
heard of it.
I know,
Hmm.
and I thought it would create a bit of a discussion for us because I do love a discussion,
Hmm.
and you're very opposite to how I feel about things, so I like hearing your thoughts on episodes like this, especially when they're quite a compelling episode and I don't really know how to explain it.
Yeah.
We've had some like ghosty ones, and I think, oh, like the guy in the refrigerator, the mystery in the woods, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh, the refrigerators must have gone haywire and is inhaled some toxic fumes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this one, oh, I don't know how to explain it. And I've read a lot of different forums, and they also have some sort of discussion about it, but I don't feel like it fits. So I'd love your opinion.
Okay. Can I
So,
just say the episode that you did um reasonably recently about the ghost car that everyone
oh
said.
yeah,
Do you know
that was a
what?
blam. Phantom
Yeah,
A, yeah.
that has stayed with me and I think about it all the time.
Do you? Well, you got to think
Yeah.
about this as well because it's a
Oh,
little bit
okay.
similar. A little bit similar.
Okay. If you guys haven't listened to that about the Phantom crash, um,
Yeah,
you definitely listen to it because honestly, that's properly like blown my mind.
yeah, yeah. Because I couldn't explain that either, could I?
No, no,
Don't know.
that was mad that. But
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. Carry on.
So it was 2008, so
Not long ago.
not a massive amount of time ago, but long enough that when people say 30 years ago, you think 1970, but
Yeah.
actually it's not. Um, so 2008, it was quite a while ago, but still very recent.
Hmm.
49-year-old Charles Chuck Peck. I'm going to call him Charles, but I think other people refer to him as Chuck. He'd been living in Salt Lake City, working for Delta Airlines at the Salt Lake City International Airport, and he'd worked there for 19 years. He had 3 grown children, and after 24 years of marriage, had divorced his wife. But things were on the up for Charles. He had begun, after the divorce of his wife, he'd begun dating a lifelong family friend called Andrea Katz. However, Andrea lived over 700 miles away in
Oh,
California. And it baffles me how big America is.
I
Like,
know. It's mad, isn't it?
yeah, that someone can still live in America but be so far away from somebody.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so she lived 700 miles away in California. So every weekend, Charles would hop on a flight from Salt Lake City International Airport on the Delta Airlines because he worked there. He was allowed to just hop on and off the flights. So he would hop on a flight and then disembark at the airport in Southern California and then spend the weekend with Andrea. So very quickly their relationship blossomed, and it was very quick because they'd been lifelong friends, so they
Yeah.
technically knew each other inside and out. And after a short while, the pair decided that they wanted to get married. They got engaged. However, the stipulation was that they needed to be living together before they actually got married. They were happy to be engaged, but they wanted to be living together before they officially tied the knot because they didn't want a long distance marriage.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work for most people. So, in September of that year, 2008, Charles decided to look for a job closer to Andrea so that he could move in with her and then get their marriage plans underway. And he'd actually managed to get an interview at I don't really know how to pronounce this, so sorry everybody in California. Van Nuys Airport in California. It's spelled Nuys.
NUY. Hmm. Yeah, I don't
So,
know.
yeah,
Sorry,
that,
guys. We don't know.
yeah, at the airport in California. So the 12th of September rolls around, which is the day of the interview, and Charles had taken his usual flight from Salt Lake City to California. He then hopped on the Metrolink train, where he sat on the first passenger car of the train. So, you've got like the engine compartment where the conductor or engineer sits, and then you had the first lot of passenger cars. And as he sat on there, he made a phone call to Andrea to say, I've just got on the train. I won't be long. And then she was then going to leave her house and meet him at the train station to pick him up. At around 4:20 p.m, as Charles sat at the front of the train, patiently waiting for the next stop, which is what he was due to get off at, unbeknownst to Charles and all of the 225 other passengers aboard the Metrolink, the train's engineer, the man in charge of the train and all of its passengers, 46-year-old Robert Sanchez, had just finished reading the last of a barrage of messages he'd just received after spending the last half an hour texting back and forth. So he'd been texting a teenage boy who was a train fanatic.
Right.
So this boy had been asking him all about different trains, and the conductor was on and off messaging him. But this distraction meant that Robert didn't see the red light telling him to wait at the cross section of the tracks to let an oncoming freight train carrying just 3 operators pass. So you know where they have 2 tracks that kind of go into one, and the red light came on and he was supposed to wait there and wait for this train to pass. However, due to the fact that he was texting, he did not see this red light.
Oh my goodness.
So at 4:22:01, Robert is still on his phone, completely unaware as he sends the last of 5 text messages 22 seconds before impact. At 4:22:19, the engineers of both trains first see each other 4 seconds before impact.
Oh my God.
At 4:22:21, the freight engineer triggers the emergency brake 2 seconds before impact. And at 4:22:23, the trains smash head-on into each other at a combined speed of 83 miles an hour.
Jesus.
The collision was so powerful that it forced the engine room area of the Metrolink back into the first cabin, where Charles had been sitting, waiting for the next stop, which he would have arrived at in just 6 minutes' time. The track where the crash happened just happened to be situated behind some houses. You know, we used to know somebody whose garden almost backed onto the track.
Yeah.
So every time it went past, you'd hear it, it'd wake you up at night, going past. And that's just happened to be kind of where it crashed. So it was actually an owner of one of those houses that rang 911. And the crew arrived about 4 minutes later, around 4:30. And they cut through the back fence of this lady's house and they clambered down to the crash site. And the officer that was first on site immediately called for an additional 5 ambulances, 30 fire engines, and every heavy search and rescue unit available in the city, which included 250 firefighters.
Jeez.
It was a massive, massive crash. It was a absolutely devastating impact.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, news spread of the crash, and Andrea heard about it on the radio while on her way to meet Charles at the station.
Oh no.
And Charles's family also found out and were eagerly awaiting any news about Charles, because it was just broadcast that there'd been this accident. It didn't say anything about the amount of survivors that there were, or the severity of the crash. But firefighters attending the scene described it as the worst carnage they'd ever seen. Inside the carriages, they described it as a bloody mess. The emergency responders said that passengers suffered crush-type injuries, like head injuries, multiple facial fractures, chest traumas, collapsed lungs, broken ribs, broken pelvis, leg and arm breaks, and obviously gashes, wounds, cuts, and soft tissue damage and things like that. An air-conditioned tent was actually set up just outside the crash zone that acted as a temporary morgue while rescues pulled out the dead amongst the survivors. So for hours, Charles's family had this awful wait to find out if he was among one of the lucky ones that had survived. But the first bit of news didn't come from the authorities at the scene. It actually came from Charles himself.
Oh.
Surrounded by most of his other family members, his son CJ received a telephone call from Charles's mobile phone a few hours after the crash. And it popped up on his caller ID, Dad Mob. And he was surrounded by all of the family, and he's kind of shouted, Dad's calling, you know, like answered it in a panic. And all he received on the other end was this quiet, static noise. So he began shouting into the phone, you know, are you okay, Dad? You know, hold on, rescue's coming, emergency people are there, you know, where are you? Are you trapped? Are you stuck? Just kind of anything. Before the line cut off. He tried to ring his dad back, but the phone went straight to voicemail. And then agonizing minutes went by when Charles's sister received a phone call from him. And the same thing happened, you know, Dad, we love you, just hold on. Any sort of words of encouragement and support that they could offer, because they felt like perhaps he was trapped and unable to speak, but was calling out for help. But then the phone would cut off, they would ring it back, and it would go straight to voicemail. Then his mother received a call. His brother received a call. His stepmother received a call. And Andrea, his fiancée, received a call. All had the same. They all had Charles's caller ID pop up on their phones. 35 calls were made from Charles's phone over the course of the next 11 hours, while firefighters dug through the wreckage to try and find him, giving the family hope that he was actually, in fact, still alive, but like I say, just trapped or injured and unable to speak, and trying to call out all these different people to say, you know, you don't know what you do in an emergency. If you were trapped, I think you'd try and call through all of your family and be like, I love you, goodbye, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But each time the family members answered the phone, they only received quiet static on the other end of the line, no other noise. And each time they all shouted these words of encouragement and words of love, just hoping that he could hear them if he was unable to speak. But each time the call would end, and when they tried to call back, it would go straight to voicemail. These barrage of calls promoted the search and rescue team to trace Charles's phone calls to try and actually pinpoint a location of his phone, and then hopefully of where Charles was, which led to them going back to that first cart that was so devastatingly damaged to search through the remnants of this carriage to where Charles had been seated. The last of the phone calls came at around 3:28 a.m. and Charles's body was recovered from the wreckage about an hour later. 25 people died in the collision, with 135 others being severely injured. But here's the creepy part. Charles's autopsy report concluded that he had died instantly on impact. His injuries were so severe that the coroner reported that there were no signs that he had lived for even a short while after the impact. And I couldn't find the actual autopsy reports, but based on the fact that he was in the front carriage and the engine compartment had forced its way back into that, and they couldn't find it because he was so trapped in amongst all this carnage. And before the autopsy had been carried out, I mean, the autopsy was the official report of cause of death. When the rescue workers found him, they said that it was very clear that he had died on impact because of the severity of his injuries. So it could have been like decapitation, that sort of thing, that made it very obvious that he did not survive for even, you know, any time after, let alone 11 hours worth of time while these phone calls were being made. And what's even stranger about this case is that Charles's phone was never found. It was never located in any of the wreckage.
Hmm.
So a lot of people have said that perhaps it was the phone malfunctioning, perhaps the phone was pinned somewhere and it was kept calling and scrolling and calling and scrolling, but that doesn't really make sense to me.
No,
It
it
was
doesn't make.
2008, so it was probably quite a bit of a smartphone.
Yeah,
It had probably had a locking function,
yeah,
which meant that it would need to be unlocked. Other people have said that perhaps it was survivors in the wreckage that had found the phone and were trying to call
yeah.
his family, but
That was my first thought. Not so much. I don't know. Like it could be, you know, when you get massive head trauma, you have that almost like muscle memory where you
yeah,
just continue to do things even though you're dying, you know, and
yeah,
it's the damage is that bad, but you still can continue to like do things and move around. And it could have been, my first thought was that it was someone else that had his phone
mm,
that was just literally dialing through, but they couldn't speak or something like that. However, they still would have been in the same carriage as Charles.
yeah. But
And
also,
also, they would have found the phone if it was in fully working order
yeah, yeah.
and in one piece, they would have found it.
But also, the phone kept going to voicemail as soon as anybody tried to call
Yeah,
it back, which
that
indicates
also
to me
doesn't
that
make sense.
probably the phone was absolutely ruined.
Yeah,
I don't think that it would have survived. It would have been on Charles's person, perhaps, I would
mm,
assume, because he'd rung Andrea just not too long beforehand to say,
yeah,
I'm on the train, I'm on my way. So he would have had it on his person. Yeah,
right.
it was a strange one. There's a lot of theories around it, but none that it made any sort of sense to me. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's almost impossible to reason that out if it wasn't something.
Supernatural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Because
then
how else is that possible?
while I was doing the research on this, I found as well that there are a few other stories that this had sort of happened to.
Mm.
And one of them was from an author called Dean Koontz.
Oh,
And
I love Dean
do
Koontz.
you? I was going to say, I've
Yeah,
read a few of his books.
yeah.
So he said that he received a phone call from his deceased mother because he was just in his office one day and the phone rang and he answered it and it said, like, it was like a warning, be careful, be careful. And he said his number was unlisted, so it wasn't in the phone books. So it would have been somebody that knew his number and it sounded like his mother. So he was very confused about it. But they
Mm.
didn't say anything when he asked, who are you or whatever, and they didn't answer and just kept repeating this message, be careful. And days later, Dean's dad was in I don't know whether it's sort of like a mental hospital or a home for the elderly, but
Mm.
he, from what I gather, probably had dementia and he was getting quite aggressive and often would fight with the staff and things like that. And they
Mm.
called Dean down to come and sort him out. And while he was there, they got into a struggle and the Dean's dad had picked up a knife and was trying to stab Dean, and he managed to kind of disarm him. The police were called, and when the
Yes.
police came, Dean had this knife, and they're like, "Drop it, drop it, drop it." And he was worried about the fact that he might be shot
Mm.
because he had this knife. But he took that phone call to mean that it was a warning from his mum that
Yeah.
something like that was going to happen. Um, so yeah, but there's quite a few other stories on the internet of where people had received these
Almost
weird.
like calls from beyond the grave, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. There's a book actually, and I think it's called something like that, Calls from the Deceased or
Yeah,
something.
I wrote it. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Experience that.
That
This is
one
what I
about it.
thought I'd do the episode because you'd know all about it.
Yeah. that that is that is definitely something that I would immediately think that is some sort of spiritual intervention, whether it's from Charles but just to kind of touch base with his friends and family and like let them know that it's okay.
Yeah.
I can't, if it just happened once or it happened to one person, I'd be like, maybe it's some sort of mechanical issue on his phone that when it gets damaged or something for some weird reason, it's repeating that call or something like that. But the fact that it was so many people and for over such a long time as well.
Yeah. But also, it wasn't just random people. It was his friends. It was his family.
Yeah,
It wasn't
his
even like
closest
friends.
family.
So, you know, if you scroll through your contacts, there's God knows, I've got like Wendy Massage, and I'm thinking, who is that? You know,
Yeah,
you've got
yeah.
random people on your phone. If it had have called random people, you'd be like, oh, the phone's malfunctioning. But it called his family members.
What are your thoughts on it? Because I immediately think that was Charles's spirit
It's a
reaching
very
out.
interesting route to go down, isn't it? Because when people talk about ghosts or paranormal, it's all about energy, you know, and they drain energy from batteries or from electrical interference and things like
Yeah,
that. Like people use electrical equipment to test for paranormal activity. So it's not
yeah,
out the realms of possibility that they can influence that sort of technology.
yeah,
And perhaps his spirit was, you know, because it was so fresh, I guess, and probably that all that energy was still in the carriage.
yeah.
Maybe it had more of a powerful influence to be able to make those calls, but obviously not be able to say anything or speak.
I mean, it surprises me that you think that's a possibility.
I don't really think it's a possibility, but I don't know how to explain it other than the fact you could say that the phone malfunctioned, but that doesn't really make sense. You could
I
say
mean,
that someone else is making those
yeah,
calls, but actually, unless you've got your contact saved as CJ son or so and
yeah,
so brother or so and so, how are they going to know who your family members are to ring?
yeah,
I mean, mum, dad, whatever, but unless you've got your fiance listed as fiance,
yeah. They wouldn't know, would
they
they?
wouldn't know who to ring.
And also, the phone, surely, if it was, if someone else using it or something like that, surely they would have found it.
Yeah, but also that's not your first instinct. If you've just been in a massive, major, catastrophic crash, you don't go into a compartment and look for somebody else's phone, do you?
No,
You
and there
get
there
out.
wouldn't,
But also
that first
Charles's,
carriage would have been non-existent.
yeah, and Charles's body was. They searched that carriage a few times and didn't find him.
Mm,
So if somebody else had come along,
yeah,
just out of another carriage or whatever, they wouldn't have just found him.
no,
And if the search team couldn't find him,
no. And how would his phone? I think his phone would have been absolutely obliterated.
yeah,
I
yeah, I
don't
do as
think it would
well.
have been possible. I think it's in probably a million pieces.
Yeah, you imagine you drop your phone from the table and it smashes.
Yeah,
It's not going to withstand a train. Although back in 2008, probs had a Nokia.
yeah, Nokia 3210. They
Yeah,
lasted forever.
yeah,
But no, I I think it's spiritual.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I'd like to hear. You know, we always reach out to the listeners and say, yeah, if you've got a personal story or a personal experience, then let us know because we
I'll cover
absolutely would love.
100%.
So if you do have anything like this or know of anything like this, then do let us know because
Mm,
it just furthers our mind,
yeah, yeah,
broadens our,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're always learning, aren't we?
yeah,
It's what
absolutely.
makes
And
it fun.
I've learned to be more open-minded because very from the beginning I was very much like absolutely not. But after researching these stories and deep diving into, because I said to you from the start, didn't I? You do the paranormal, you do the werewolves and whatever else, and
Yeah,
I'll do, you know, the strange mysteries and stuff. But actually, I've done quite a lot of ghosty, haunted,
yeah, you
creepy
have.
ones, haven't I? Because
Yeah,
they perplex me so much because
yeah,
some of them are very hard to dispute, and some of them are very convincing, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes you more intrigued with it.
yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
I've done more of the sort of horrendous murderers
Big
like
cases.
Charles Ing, Toy Box Killer, cases like that. And Willie Picton, they're cases that I just didn't ever think that I would touch, but I'm just so intrigued by them.
Yeah.
And the more I've done them, the more I've sort of got into it and thought, what makes someone want to do that?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
That
So
level of depravity as well.
yeah,
Not just your bog standard murder.
no,
Um,
no, proper torture. But yeah, I think it's this podcast so far has changed both of us, and we've both had many different views on different
yeah.
things.
And I
And
wonder if we've got any listeners that are as skeptical as me that have changed their stance on
mm,
things. I wonder if listening to some of these episodes has made people realise that perhaps there is more out there, or
yeah,
it's opened
how can
people's.
that be explained?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope so.
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, well, that's it anyway. So that was my episode.
Brilliant. That was great. That was
Yeah.
very similar to the
Yeah, the
Phantom
Phantom.
crash. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
get it.
I'll see you on the next one, I guess.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. And then I'd like burst into this big balloon of lycra and I'd be like, I'll be back in a minute.